see, now I know which direction I'm even presenting here. Again, just trying to put my phone on do not disturb there. Okay. Get my visual aids ready. Okay, there we go. Maybe, I don't know. I might have to step back just a little bit. Okay. All right. There we go. And then you're gonna have a great time looking at this, right? But we can talk about this. Okay, so I cannot see far enough to see who's on the call. Do you mind if we do introductions? I can introduce myself first. So my name is Michelle King, and I'm with the LC Valley Youth Resource Center. I am the president and co-founder. Who else do we have on the call today?
You want to go next, Marcy?
Sure. Marcy Nixon, and I work as a program specialist in student support at Walla Walla Community College in Clarkston.
And I am Stephanie Herbert. I own Stephanie's Biz Services, and I work to help with marketing and other work for the website for LCVRC.
Right. Stephanie, it's nice to see you. It's been a bit since we connected.
Couple years. Yeah, I think well, COVID kind of flash forwarded. I don't remember. I think it was when COVID was starting that I started, and then 18 months. I think I did it for 18 months. And then, so that's been like 3.5 years ago now. So yeah, quite a while.
Okay, well, let me just tell you what Stephanie helped me start, you guys. So when we started the Youth Resource Center, let me explain what the Youth Resource Center is. So the Youth Resource Center is a safe place for local teenagers ages 12 to 17 to go get an afternoon snack, take a shower, do their laundry, get help with homework. We do give them prizes if they do homework with us. Set goals, and when they achieve those goals, they also get prizes. We serve dinner at 6 o'clock every night. After dinner, we say, okay, who needs a safe place to stay? And we're a low barrier homeless shelter for up to 16 local youth. As of last night, we have 9 full-time kids. We have about 35 kids who come every afternoon. It's a little nuts. I'm thankful that we have grown to a spot where we actually have staff 24/7. Hello, welcome, come in. You're exactly on time. Hi, Robin. Okay, so there's 2 Michelles in the room, so this is going to be awesome fun. But I assume you guys already do this, Michelle.
Yeah. Yes. Michelle and I know each other. I'm the treasurer.
Wonderful. Well, it's nice to officially meet you. So we opened 5 years ago in September. In the 5 years we've been open, we've served over 500 youth, provided 100 youth with overnight stays, to include almost 4,000 nights of shelter. We've served over 18,000 meals. Of the 100 overnight kids, these are some pretty powerful stats, because Michelle will tell you, especially for an unaccompanied youth to get into school, takes moving mountains, like literally. And we've helped 12 kids get back to getting an education. We've seen 11 kids graduate with either their diploma or their GED. 25 of the 100 got employment while working on school stuff. 51 of them began their sobriety with us. 65 of them were able to reunite with their family when their circumstances changed. And 77 went on to permanent housing. Of the over 500 youth that we've served, we've been in the moment when a kiddo decided between life and suicide 62 times. We are the people who walk out on the bridge. So when Stephanie started with us, she was one of our early volunteers, and we had volunteers who would come in like 2-hour shifts. And then my husband and I lived there to get it started because we didn't have money. That was like, I mean, we had enough to keep the lights on, but we didn't really have like operational funding. We did it on a shoestring. And now we've grown, obviously, with 35 kids during the day and 9 or 10 at night. You have that our grants require that we stay at a 1-to-8 ratio, and the grants pay for the staff to be there for all of that. We also have 2 full-time case managers who are also our team leaders. And we take kids, now we have a whole program that connects kids back out into the community. So if they need to see a doctor, we can get them into the doctor and then we can take them to the doctor. Or eye doctor, dentist, counseling, all the things. I mean, you want to see our back to school shopping trip. It's quite the adventure, but it's a lot of fun. Maurice's actually has a special event for us for 2 hours where they bring in their whole staff and every kid gets their own designer to pick clothes. And then the district manager authorizes any discount that they have is allowed to be used for our kids. And so we get to stock everybody up with clothes and then we take them to Walmart, get the socks and undies, you know, all the good stuff. Lots of messy miracles. The thing we've run into is that when they turn 18, there is nowhere to go. There's nobody renting to an 18-year-old that's still in high school. Certainly not one that doesn't have any money or a cosigner or anything, or life experience of ever taking out the trash in their life, right? So we are creating a transitional housing village, and this village will have 12 tiny house cottages. And each of those will be basically, if you think of it kind of like a dorm room where it's a bedroom with a closet and then a bathroom with a shower. And each kiddo gets their own cottage to take care of and stay in. And then the kitchen and laundry facility is in a commons building, and there's a staff on site all the time to help them with those important things, like what happens when the toilet goes this way instead of that way, right? Or actually teach them to clean, teach them to pay bills, how to avoid junk mail scams, but to definitely or open your jury summons, right? And how to know the difference. We are very excited that we've gone through the city's whole process of getting everything in place to build the village. We've gotten approval. And Idaho Housing has come in and purchased the properties that needed to be purchased, and some donors kicked in some cash so we can lease the city piece of it. It's kind of weird. The only place that's allowed to be used for this in Lewiston under the zoning rules consists of 4 different pieces of property, and there's a moat in the middle. Like if you think of castles and moats, like literally a moat. It's right across the street from El Sombrero on East Main. And so we are building this village. And I know that you can't see it on the camera, so I will ask Michelle to send out a link to the video rendering of this, because it's pretty cool when you get to walk through on the screen. But the cottages, again, I know on the screen that looks terrible, but they're 10 feet wide and they're 10 feet apart, so they're going to be nice and tight in there. And then, but inside of them, it'll be basically a loft bed with a cute little desk under it. And then on this side of the room, will be the closet and then the bathroom with shower. And so here's the sky view picture of it. And the rendering person, one gave all the kids Corvettes and Camaros, which the kids thought were like, hey, do we get those for our kids? Yes, after you buy me one. But the moat looks a lot nicer than it really looks, because of course it's cobblestone and 100 years old. But this is the gazebo with the fire pit. This is the commons building with the kitchen. And then there'll be a dozen of these cute little cottages. So I can't wait for you guys to get to see this on the rendering, like as you walk through the video. But it's so exciting, you guys. So we have broken ground. The only thing you can see above the ground right now is our fire hydrant. But it's probably the single most expensive thing we're going to buy. Because it took a lot to put that in. We've raised, I think, pretty close to $1.2 million of the 2.4 we need. So we're halfway there. And so through the end of the year, we're going to be doing a fundraiser of, we all know that there are some very affluent folks in our community, but they kind of get asked every time there's a thing. And so we're going to ask the village to build the village and ask our whole community, everybody I know, everybody you know, $200. If we get 5,000 people to get us $200, we're there. So $200. When I say we need $1 million, people are like, "That's a lot, Michelle." I'm like, "Yeah, but if we get 5,000 people to give us $200, that's not so bad, right?" So that was a lot of words. I know you guys really focus on ACEs and counter ACEs, and we have a whole structure and curriculum around that I'm happy to share with you kind of how we deal with that. But first I want to be quiet and ask, what questions do you have for me?
Do you still have this is kind of more for my information than anybody's, but do you still have the attendance initiative that you were doing?
So that's yes. So what we do is each kid gets to meet with a case manager and set personal goals. And of course, there's guardrails on the personal goals. But we did have a young man last year who the goal we set was that he would not drop the F-bomb at the Jennifer Junior High principal. And so our program with those kind of goals is we call it a 3, 10, 21. And we started it with a diabetic kid. He was type 1 diabetic. And he did not think that he could manage his sugars. Like he really thought it was physiologically impossible. So nobody could get him to engage. And this 12-year-old loved Legos. Like to say he loved Legos is kind of an understatement. So I looked at him and I said, today, this one day, I was like, your blood sugar has been 40 and 600, which is twice. You darn near died on us, dude. So here's my phone. I want you to pick $100 worth of Legos. He's like, what? I said, yeah, we're going to order them right now. And when you go 3 days keeping your sugar in the safe range, you get all those Legos. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Now, I personally paid for the Legos. And I was like, this is the best $100 I've ever spent if this baby will keep from dying, right? But what happened in that moment was he was motivated. It was a currency that he believed in. But more than that, in those 3 days, he actually managed his sugar. And then he knew he could do it. And the impossible became possible. So, yes, for kids who are really struggling with attendance, we'll be like, okay, can you have attendance to all of your classes for 3 straight days? Because then you prove you can. Then when you can do 10 consecutive days, you get another prize. Now, most kids, the first prize is like a fidget spinner or a coffee card. And the second prize is maybe 2 coffee cards or 2 movie tickets kind of a thing. But if you can go, our next step is 21 consecutive days. Because what is that, folks? That's how you develop a habit, right? And so if this kiddo can do that chosen behavior 21 consecutive days, and sometimes there's a lot of restarts in that, right? So it might take them a year to get that far. But when they reach that step, I'll buy you a bike. I'll buy you a longboard. That hoodie that you really want that you saw on the internet. We can even get it. And we have like a prize display upstairs. And kids get to take their Post-it note and put their name on the prize that they're working towards. So that it's a tangible goal. Because that also teaches goal setting and achievement and it's all of the things, right? So long answer, yes, attendance can absolutely be one of the things we work on, but it also can be change your socks, right? Wear deodorant. These things are important, but maybe not to a 12-year-old, right? So we have a philosophy on the sock thing that when the kids' socks start to get funky and crunchy, especially with the rain and all that kind of stuff, we have sock sliding competitions because you can't slide in crusty socks, so you got to put on new ones. And then we'll take all of the old ones and put them in a Walmart bag, and then you can take those home and just keep the new ones, right? You finally got clean socks on your feet. Then we do prizes for whoever gets the best slide. Yeah, it might be a Snickers bar. You don't care. It's just that, but it's for us. We understand that it's hygiene and safe and avoiding fungus. For the kid, it's about the candy bar and a good slide. So, yeah. Any other questions? You guys want to hear about our ACEs and counter ACEs and kind of what we do with that? Yes. Okay. So, most of our kids have between 8 and 10 ACEs. And if you're 14 and you answered yes to the 10 ACEs questions, you've been through hell. And we know, you guys are educated on the ACEs, so I kind of feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I'll tell you how we deal with this. That for an adolescent who has that high of an ACEs score, it changes the way the electricity flows in your brain. And ACEs don't ever go away, but you can learn to be safe and you can regrow the synapses as soon as you perceive that you're safe. Now, for a lot of the kids we serve, safe is a unicorn. It's something that's not existent for them. So teaching them what safe is, what their safe is, or giving them the space to find what their safe is, and then guiding them through the steps of that. So what happens is, for a lot of our kiddos, I saw somebody do this with a hand, and so I'm going to try and cheat and do it, but we'll see how well this works. So, if you think of the electricity flowing into the brain as it goes through the medulla oblongata, right? Say that 10 times fast. Or the lizard brain. Okay, we learned that dysregulated teenagers don't like to be called lizards. That goes badly, like really badly. So we call it dragons. Dragons are cool, right? So the electricity goes through the dragon, and the dragon only understands the next 15 minutes to 15 seconds. Like, there is no tomorrow. If you ground a dragon till the end of time, they do not care, right? Because the electricity isn't getting to the next part, which is where they have their emotions. And then after you get through the emotional part, then you get to higher level thinking, which is where consequences even begin to register. Goals, planning, all of these things. So most of the kids that we serve come in as dragons. And they will self-sabotage to stay dragons. But what happens is, as they stay with us, they start to get safe. And the synapses start to form to the next section of the brain. And last night I sat with a little girl who sobbed for an hour because she's been pretty badass. She survived really tough stuff, my friends, and she has never let herself cry. And last night, the electricity got to that part of the brain and the floodgates opened. And it was snot bubbles. And she's like, I'm broken, but I just can't. Nobody understands that I just can't. And I'm like, okay, let's start with right now. You have permission to can't. You have permission to cry. I know this hurts and it sucks, but what this tells me is you finally are safe enough to let the electricity get to the next part of your brain. You're healing. She's like, I don't want to. I'm like, I get it. But this is good because once you get past the snot bubbles, great things can happen. So we call it messy miracles because miracles don't start with the heavens opening up and everything is easy. Miracles start with snot bubbles and really hard, right? But the good news is after the meltdown, and we have a whole room called the butterfly room. That's actually where this little gal was losing it. And we explained that in the butterfly room, it's very much, going through the steps of ACEs recovery or counter ACEs or healing. We call it dragon training because that's really easy for them to understand. So going through dragon training kind of is like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. There is this space where the caterpillar is in a cocoon and they liquefy. And it's hot. It's a chemical reaction. It's hot. It's itchy. It hurts. But that's what it takes to grow wings. So I got to say that on the other side of this, sweet little sister, you're going to be able to fly. And so we made it through the night. And sometimes we take it most of the time we take it one day at a time. Because we don't know ever what we're going to get. But when a kiddo gets to the next phase of it and they start telling me their goals, I can't even tell you how many kids have told me they're going to be a rapper. And one told me she was going to be a stripper, but I think she was just trying to get my goat. I'm like, make your money, get an education, because once gravity kicks in, no more money, right? But she didn't know what to do with that information. I'm like, okay, I'm just telling you real. But when they get to the next step, and those synapses start to fire, then they do set real goals. Not next 15-minute goals of don't swear at the principal, but real goals. And then they achieve them. And it is truly messy miracles. Now, our logic model and measurable outcomes, all the things we track for our grants There are 5 counter ACEs in all the texts and studies. And interestingly enough, they're almost identical to the 5 steps to prevent adolescent child abuse. And so we marry those up. So some of those are being part of a community where your words matter. You feel empowered. Having one caring adult. Having a safe place. And that's 3 of the 5. The rest of them are on the tip of my tongue. I can send you our PowerPoint that has those like super detailed, but that is very much what we measure our success on, is how many kids do we get to participate in activities, and to, show up for the fun things. Like for Halloween, we blow up pumpkins, with dry ice. So science is cool. It's extremely dangerous. Stephanie, were you to our first Halloween or our first couple Halloweens?
I'm here. I'm listening. I think I remember I was there for the Super Bowl party, but I don't remember Halloween.
Remember Halloween. So the first one was on a Sunday, and I will never forget it because it's when Ed and I lived there. And I said, okay, we're gonna blow up pumpkins. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm watching a football game, and he was up in the apartment, which, by the way, we've turned into offices and case management and like group case, like
Wow.
kids group space, where they can have peer-led support groups and talk through stuff together. And goes, I'm just gonna watch the Seahawks. You guys go do that. I said, you're really gonna let me do this by myself? He's like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'm like, here, just watch this YouTube video of what's about to happen. And he's like, I'm like, I have to go potty. I heard him from the bathroom. He goes, holy crap, Michelle. Because it's not like a little explosion. Like, we have to get a noise permit because when we pop these things off, the pumpkin goes everywhere. It's usually across all 4 lanes of 17th Street. And on the other side of it, like, it is like it's quite the thing. This year, they all went straight up. So, like, it goes boom. And then we're out there setting up the next one. And then it rains down Fitzo pumpkin. Like, there was like this delay. That's how high it went. I'm sure the roof is covered. But yeah, we use dry ice to blow up pumpkins for Halloween.
A year ago I was at Habitat, and this year I volunteered at the pumpkin patch. So I was there when they came to pick up the pumpkins, and they said that they were gonna blow them up. And I think last year I remember working the day that the staff came to buy them, because I talked about that I knew that I had volunteered there. And um is JD still helping? Is he still?
No, JD is not there anymore, but Sharessa is still there. Sharessa's actually going to be our life skills coach, both at the youth center and the village now.
Yeah. But it was still just like familiar names, and I've seen 1 or 2 of the kids from the resource center. Like one of them I passed at like the grocery outlet, and I like remembered her, and I was like, "Oh," but I only saw her once. And then another one I saw working at Sharps, and I was like, "She's familiar." And I was like, I remembered who she was, but I didn't want to say how I knew her because obviously confidentiality and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Thank you for respecting that, but absolutely. Yes. We tell the kiddos that the center is their bat cave, where they get to, this is your secret identity space. But it's a little hard to have it be your secret identity space when there's 35 teenagers running around. So it is a lot of fun. It's the hardest, coolest thing I've ever done. What other questions do you guys have?
So, Michelle, if you don't have living quarters upstairs, but you just have staff on site, but with the case managers and the overnight kids and stuff like that, I mean, are they still just hanging out in the living room, just managing all the kids from running into other rooms and stuff?
Yes. So we have, one of our grants requires that we be open 24/7 now. So we have we hired an admin person to be my right hand. Jason is amazing, and he handles our grant compliance, but he is there from 8 to 2:30 every day. during the weekdays in case there's a sick kid or a kid needs to come, change their shoes or forgot their bag or, all the things. And then in the afternoons, we run 4 staff to make sure we stay at ratio. And then overnight, depending on if we're under 8 kids, we have 1 staff that's there all night with another on call. Or if there's over 8, there's 2 staff there through the night doing the chores and just being,
Yeah,
And
because
then the team leader that's on call within the 10-minute response time.
I just remember that you had the hour that you had to close, so
Yeah.
technically they
So-
couldn't stay there for 24 hours.
So we now have a system to be able to document. So under Idaho law, if a kid stays with us for 24 hours, then we have to be a residential care facility or a group home. And we would have to turn away any of the kids that aren't paying to be there, which would defeat our entire purpose, right?
Yeah.
So they have to leave the property at least 1 minute per day. So Monday through Friday, that's at 8 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday, it's 10 a.m. And now we have a system to be able to document that they left the property. And then if they come back after that, we're good to go. But we do encourage them, one, to go to school.
Right.
Or to the continuing education. They do a lot with the Adult Learning Center to be able to get their GED if school isn't a fit for them. Or if they've already, worked both school districts in our community and that's not a match for either party, then they go on to the Adult Learning Center. Or if they go off to work, but we do say out of the house, you're not gonna just sit and play video games and, become a slug. You have to go do something every single day, because that's best for them.
So I just did the book study on the anxious generation, which I think everybody in the world is doing now, but what's your cell phone, social media, internet policy? Or do you have one?
So, the kids we serve are feral. That's the best way to describe it. Under Idaho state law, as long as you text your kid once every 365 days, you have met the minimum legal requirement for parenting. That is state law. That is how they define abandonment. I know, isn't that ridiculous? And so, if they are not in imminent danger for life and limb and are not they have to be in imminent danger for life and limb, and they have to not be able to self-protect. So, and I have seen even a kid who was super developmentally delayed not meet the criteria to get the state involved. So, he was so on the spectrum that he had to have his own room and we had to do all these things to mitigate his overstimulation, which is fine. But really, you would think that that would meet the criteria, and no. So, but he says that we saved his life because once we got involved, his dad wasn't bouncing his head off the pavement anymore. There's just a lot of things that get in the way of the state mitigating and helping in that. Remind me of the question because I got distracted by that kiddo story.
Social media.
Oh, yeah. So because they are feral, we do not do power control. Our rules that we enforce are truly safety policy rules. You can't come to deal drugs here. You can't hit each other. Everybody gets to be safe here. There's no power struggle because we lead through influence, not enforcement. So if I raise my voice to enforce something, it's because I really am that we have to be safe, right? But instead we use influence. So to say that we have hard rules, no. That you have to put your phone away, you can't minimize your screen time, No, we make it fun to play the video games in the living room with other people. And so then there are time limits because other people want to play that game, but you're playing with other people and there's a tournament or, it's me and I'm in Mario Kart just going off the cliff and going the wrong direction because I'm terrible and you have to help me, and it's a social thing. So it's not just screen time. They are allowed to have their video gaming systems in their room and that kind of thing. But they do, they can't just log into it. And if they don't keep their room clean, then I cut off the Wi-Fi. I I'm an IT person by trade. I build radio stations for my real job. And so, yeah, no, I'm just like, hey, if you're just gonna, make this unsafe because it's unclean, then there's not gonna be any Wi-Fi for anybody in the house until you get your socks off the floor. Because there's a certain spot where that's not safe, right? And it's more than socks, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. And so, but we also really make it fun to put the phone down and come be part of it. Now, are there times when I look around the room and all the kids are like this, probably texting each other? Yes, but that's usually the time when we're like, all right, extreme uno, let's go. Or we roll out, we have a thing like this, but it's actually for, what's that game? Twister boards taped together. And so we have like a giant twister match. Well, you can sit on your phone and pretend you can't pay attention, but you're gonna giggle at the ridiculousness at some point, right? And so, or we have the Nerf guns.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just, again, it's about choices instead of making somebody do something, because these kids, they've made it this far big, and the rest of the world is busy telling them how it has to be. We just give them an opportunity to find their space. Safe. Now, we do have honest conversations about sexing. We have pretty honest conversations about everything. Sometimes they educate me on things I did not want to know. Usually around the dinner table, I'm like,
On that stream of things, I was gonna ask you, how much interaction do you have with community resources that are out there? Because I mean, I know kids. I raised a house full of them, and kids that are, as you said, feral, that have a lot of needs, are also can be extraordinarily vulnerable to predatory people.
Yes.
And I can't think of anybody better like the YWCA to be able to be involved and just sit down and have talks.
So they're
About safety, safe relationships, red flags.
So they did come for a while and teach healthy relationships classes to our kiddos. And that received mixed responses. One of their instructors that they brought was super dynamic and it worked great. The next one, she was outside her gifting in the first place and it was not so right. Absolutely.
Kids.
And especially these kids. These are not the kids that you think are gonna sit down crisscross applesauce and give you their undivided attention. That is outside their gifting, like for real.
I get it.
So, but we do have peer-led support groups where we teach healthy relationships. We provide a space for victims of sexual assault to get together and process those experiences. Victims of domestic violence, members of the recovery community. We have 4 different peer-led support groups that get together. Of course, with adult supervision. This is not just get together and relive your trauma. This is talk about ways to healthfully move forward.
Do they have clinicians that walk through it with them?
No, because it's got to be peer-led. So we have resources. Does that make sense? There's guardrails.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to say it.
Like if they're triggered in the session,
Right.
it's really hard to get them back.
Yeah.
Just making that connection.
Yeah. But I mean, like yesterday we had a kid who had spun out of their foster home, was staying with us while their case manager from up north was looking for another foster home. And officially they weren't supposed to let them stay with us, but they had no idea what the heck else to do besides send him to juvie. We're like, this kid does not need to go to juvie, right? So we let her hang with us. The case manager showed up yesterday and took her to Moscow to place into a new foster home. Super triggering for everybody in the house. I was just covered in snot bubbles yesterday. That was kind of my role. Just cry on me, I got you. So it doesn't even take a group event to melt the whole house. We have 10 children who have no place else to sleep, who have come out of being trafficked, who have come out of being forced to drink gasoline to, mom's couch surfing and the teenagers have nowhere to go. So they could be forced to couch surf too, or they could stay with us till mom gets stable. To, really just trying to get sober, but home isn't sober. So they're staying with us so they can get sober in hopes that home will get sober. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's.
So when a kiddo comes in,
Mhm.
do you get parental consent?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like then you're able to take them to the doctor.
Yeah. So
That's that big new law, right?
Oh, yeah. No, the Parents' Rights Act sucks. Sucks a lot.
Yeah.
They used a shotgun to do what they needed a laser for.
Right.
And so I'm assuming everybody knows, but Idaho's Parents' Rights Act basically said that you're not allowed to even tell a child about services you offer without parental consent. So here's how we do it. Kiddo walks in the front door and, most solutions, whether it's for adults or kids, they make you sit down in front of a desk like this and tell me your life story so I can plug you in with the right resources. Well, for these kids, they don't need to do a trauma dump. That's not trauma informed at all. So what we do is they walk in and they answer some quick questions on a tablet because they're used to sharing information in that digital form. And it's, what's your name? What school do you go to? What grade are you in? What do you like? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? Are you allergic to anything like bees or anything? Are you fleeing for safety? Do you think you're pregnant? The boys think it's really fun to say that they're pregnant. Right. We get a lot of pregnant 12-year-old boys. And sometimes we also have a question on there, are you a sex offender? Because one of our safety boundaries is no sex offenders on the property, right? So some kids will think they're very funny and they'll say yes to that. And then we have to say, you can't come until we prove that you're not that because, right, that's not funny ever. But as soon as they sign in on that tablet, the immediate next step for our staff is we text the parents a parent authorization form just to be part of our day program. And in that, it does allow us to talk to schools, to give doctor's appointments, all of these things, right? Because you can't even give a 12-year-old tampons without parental consent in Idaho. So we just put them in the bathroom and they get them themselves. But we do text the parents. If we can't find the parents, then we email the police department, and they did at the same time as they were passing the Parents' Rights Act, they added to the runaway and homeless law that allows us to email the police department and let them know that the kiddo is with us, that they're safe, and the police department can make sure that they're not looking for him for some reason, right? So if anybody comes looking for this kid, they're here. We're not harboring anybody, right? But until we hear otherwise, we're going to make sure they have food and such. So, and then for overnight guests, we do also have a second form that we send the parents that allows them to stay. So not every kid that comes in the door is authorized to stay with us. We have a second form for that.
And if you don't get parental consent, do they still get to stay?
The only time that they don't get to stay is if a parent straight up says no. And we do have parents who are like, interestingly enough, it's usually the most abusive ones who say my kiddo cannot be there. And so we say, okay, we understand. But we stay connected with the school counselors. Like last year, we had 2 kiddos who at home, the cupboards and the fridge had padlocks on them, and the children were not allowed to have food except at the mealtime and only what they were served. And they were kiddos who the parents were supposed to pay like a copay on their hot lunch fee. And the parents refused to do that. So the kids were not having lunch. They couldn't have breakfast. They couldn't have lunch. And then they were only given whatever food the parents said they were allowed to have for dinner. And a 12-year-old boy needs 6,000 calories. And they were not getting that. I'm just going to tell you that, right? So the parents said, they cannot come to your house. You're feeding them crap. We don't want them to have this food. It's all about target control, which is abuse. And so, being a little Robin Hoodish, My team and I put together Ziploc bags of exact change for lunch money and left it in the school counselor's office. And the kiddo could just go get one of those Ziploc bags and take it to the lunch office and or to the lunch person and get their lunch. And we just circumnavigated it because at the end of the day, it wasn't about them coming to us. It was about them being able to eat. And so we just work within it because, again, the state's like, well, they texted them, so it's okay. They feed them once a day. Why is this a problem? I'm like, when my kids were little and they had braces, I had a heck of a time getting them to wear the rubber bands because the rules with the rubber bands were anytime you're not eating, you should have your rubber bands on. Like, but he doesn't stop eating. Like, he wakes up in the middle of the night to eat. What do you want? Like, really? Hello, person who just joined us. I'm Michelle King. Oh, is that Jenny?
It's Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
You're on mute, Jenny.
Hello. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm sorry that I was late.
I'm glad you're here. It's nice to see your face.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. So, Michelle's going to share the video with you guys of what our village is going to look like. From December 10th through the end of the year, we are doing a huge fundraiser. But I want to do it grassroots. We need 5,000 people to give us $200. Not everybody can afford to do that, but most, I would say a lot of folks can afford to do that. But if we can get 5,000 people to give us $200, then we can finish building the village. So
Great.
that's pretty reasonable, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can tell me that I've lost my mind. They would not be the first people to say so. But I think that was more my husband when we wanted to do it, when I was like, we should move out of our house and live with homeless teenagers. He's like, no. More questions, information, all of that. I'm gonna look and see. Marcy, you've been awful quiet. Has this been time well spent?
Yes, I love hearing about it. I love how you are circumnavigating some of the rules just to make sure that this children are able to get what it is that they want. I'm just kind of absorbing the information. So
It's definitely a lot of words. Absolutely a lot of words. But it's all built on the premise of counter ACEs and or positive childhood experiences, and which also align almost exactly with the Thrive 5 steps to prevent adolescent child abuse. So, yeah.
Do you still have someone on staff that can do the cans?
So yes, and so we have our safety and assessment program, and we do screenings. We have found the GIF to be more actionable. If a kid is connecting with an actual counselor and Molina requires that the kiddo have a CANS assessment, well, we've kind of been in this weird thing. When Molina took over, there was this bizarre thing that happened with being able to get to them and then being able to build them and blah, blah, blah. And we're still kind of even trying to get through the red tape on that. But more than that, what we found is that even if we did a CANS assessment, then the provider would have to do a CANS assessment again. And that's not trauma informed. That's horrible for a kid, right? So it's better for us to do, so we do a pediatric screening, which is a motivational interview where we kind of start to surface what's going on, but it's all very conversational and it's not across the desk. And it might happen at midnight with the case, the direct care worker. They know what questions to ask, and then they, at the end of every shift, they download to us what things the kids have shared. So it's all very relational, which is much more trauma informed. And then every kid that stays with us and those who want to connect to external resources, we do a GIF screening, which if you don't know what a GIF screening is, it's super cool because you hand a kid a tablet. And again, it's technology that they're comfortable, like they'll share their lives with this thing. They'll say things to this that they would never say to a human. And then it gives us scales and actions of, you know, suicidality or chemical dependency or surface even, it will even identify like if a kid hasn't been to the doctor or a dentist or, yeah. So that's kind of where we are in that. But if you had a kid that needed the cans, we could figure it out. Because we're part of the safety and assessment network across the state. So we can do them. But again, it just didn't make any sense to be like, here, spend 2 hours doing a trauma dump so you can go to a therapist and do a 2-hour trauma dump. Yeah. Especially because Molina requires that the cans be done before that you provide services. Because you got to screen them into the services you provide.
Is Magellan the same way?
Yes, sorry, I said Molina, but
Yeah,
Magellan is the one.
Magellan,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I was dealing with my mom's Medicare stuff this morning. Yeah.
Recognize that little Molina thing.
Yeah, no,
Involved at that level, is it?
no, yeah, no.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, it's Magellan, because it was, who was the one before? It was Optum. Yeah, it was Optum before. And when they switched, it got kind of
Kind of convoluted.
yeah, for sure. But to the point of, yes, we still have the case management piece, we still do the screenings, and then we connect kids to resources for whatever pops in those. Most of the time it's concrete stuff though. Like deodorant, food.
So basic.
Yeah. That immediate concrete support, so. Awesome. Any more questions online? I know we are like running down you guys' hour and I'm guessing you have like real business that you need to talk about, but.
This is real business.
Okay.
Yeah, this is real.
Michelle, I think since I got in late, I'll listen to the video, but when is the village gonna open?
That is, when I have another $1 million is the answer to that question, and that's not entirely true. So right now, so far, our construction consists of a fire hydrant that I hope we never need.
Exactly.
But we have it, so that's that. And then, the next phases of construction are driven by funding. So we have, Idaho Housing has come in with $1 million. And they really want our community to show its support for this project before they lay out some more. They've already bought property for us.